They didn't just slam a palace door, they tried to rip the royal nameplate clean off it, and Prince Harry felt every splinter.
Well, certainly, yes. Harry and Meghan's detractors have been calling for them to be stripped of their HRH since they left the royal family over 5 years ago. But those calls seem to be growing louder and from a more widespread community. And I think that's partly because of this interview over the weekend, which has actually backfired spectacularly on Prince Harry. I think people are starting to lose patience and certainly lose interest in his many, many court battles. But also because last week it was revealed that Meghan has been using this HRH in a private capacity. There was a...
Prince William, he's reportedly furious after it emerged that Meghan Markle is still using her HRH title despite agreeing to drop the title when the Sussexes left royal duties. How is Will planning to deal with this?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I think Meghan Markle has been very brazen recently with the use of the HRH. Now, royal fans will know in 2020, during the negotiations for Harry and Meghan to leave royal duties, it was agreed with Queen Elizabeth.
Breaking right now, an astonishing plot by Prince William to finally deal with Prince Harry.
The storm didn't start with a whisper. It exploded with the kind of political thunder the monarchy hasn't heard in generations. Parliament isn't gossiping, Parliament is circling. And at the center of the chaos stands the once untouchable spare, the prince who traded palace walls for California's sun, and is now watching the very institution that raised him move to erase his royal identity. This isn't family drama anymore. This is institutional revenge dressed in parliamentary procedure.
Bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point, I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. Like I said, life is precious. I don't know.
Once upon a time, he was the monarchy's wild heart, the cheeky grin, the soldier prince, Diana's boy who made the crown feel human. Crowds adored him, cameras loved him, the palace protected him. But now? That same palace is watching from behind velvet curtains while politicians debate whether the Duke of Sussex title should be stripped like an old coat of arms nobody wants hanging in the hall anymore. And the message cutting through London's grey skies is brutal. You can't cash in on the crown while calling it broken.
I actually feel, for the first time, a bit sorry for him. He's so lost.
He's deep down in that burrow, isn't he? It's sort of hard to retrieve yourself out of that.
Well, that interview sparked widespread backlash.
That interview, the one that sent shockwaves across continents, didn't just bruise royal egos. It detonated a chain reaction. Headlines turned savage. Public sympathy curdled. Loyalists who once defended him started muttering, enough. Inside palace corridors, the temperature reportedly dropped to Arctic levels. No shouting, no dramatic confrontations. Just icy silence. The kind that means decisions are being made behind heavy doors. And now those decisions have teeth.
Poll revealing a majority of Brits want to see Harry stripped of his HRH title. For more, we're joined by royal expert Victoria.
A formal petition is gaining traction, and it's not fueled by internet trolls. It's backed by political figures who believe Harry crossed a sacred line, that he turned royal status into a personal brand while publicly torching the institution tied to it. To critics, this isn't bravery, it's betrayal with a Netflix budget. The word floating through Westminster like smoke? Consequences.
I don't remember exact quotes, but I certainly remember the flavour being, we just want to leave all of that royal formality behind. We want to live these simple, authentic lives. So why is that HRH it being used in any capacity?
Well, because I don't think those statements before were true or authentic,
right.
I have to say, because I think it does mean a lot to them.
Friends say he shrugs it off in public, all California calm and Montecito mindfulness. But behind closed doors? This hits deeper than any tabloid jab, because this fight isn't about press coverage. It's about belonging, about blood, about a family firm that now sees him less as a prince and more as a public relations crisis that won't stop trending. And the coldest twist? The firm doesn't argue in interviews. It moves in silence.
Relevancy, and it's a selling point of their position, who they are, which is members of the royal family.
But I thought the royal family was this terrible thing that needed to be escaped. And
well, what's extraordinary is where are they? They're in America, the great egalitarian country that doesn't respect titles, doesn't use them. Everyone's equal. So to be handing out gifts. Like, yes, you might be doing it privately, but then address from HRH, the Duchess of Sussex.
Let's be honest, Harry didn't quietly fade into private life. He and Meghan walked out of Buckingham Palace and straight into global television history. Oprah, streaming giants, tell-all memoirs. The royal rulebook didn't just get bent, it got shredded on camera. For supporters, it was truth finally breaking free. For the monarchy, it was a family member airing grievances on the world stage with billion-dollar amplification. And Britain? Britain started to bristle.
Therein lies the million-dollar question, Sarah. It's a lovely idea. I think most reasonably minded people would like to see a family reconcile, particularly in the wake of King Charles's health struggles. But at this point, I just don't see how it could happen. Even in the interview, there was one point after Harry had made some really quite startling claims. He even suggested that there are dark forces at play that want his...
Reconciliation sounds lovely in theory, but in reality, the bridge looks less damaged and more like ashes drifting over the Thames. Every interview, every revelation, every carefully timed media drop has widened the gap. The trust deficit isn't inches deep, it's canyon wide. Meanwhile, public opinion has shifted in a way that should make any royal nervous. Polls suggest growing support for stripping titles from non-working royals who profit from royal connections. To many taxpayers, this isn't emotional, it's practical. If you leave the job, you don't keep the uniform. And Harry is caught in the worst possible place. Too royal to be ordinary, too controversial to be embraced. He didn't just step away from royal duty, he redefined what stepping away looks like. Media deals, global platforms, political commentaries, social activism. Admirable causes to some, dangerous territory to others. Because the monarchy survives on one ancient rule above all, neutrality.
Formulating a plan to finally strip Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their HRH.
Once a royal wades into political waters, critics argue, the crown stops being a symbol and starts looking like a participant. That's the nightmare scenario palace traditionalists whisper about. Inside the family, the fracture reportedly runs deepest between the brothers. Once inseparable, now separated by oceans in ideology. One preparing for kingship, the other building a post-palace identity that still carries a royal echo. To insiders, this isn't sibling rivalry. It's a battle over the monarchy's future image. Silence and duty versus exposure and disruption. And Parliament stepping in? That raises the stakes from emotional to constitutional. Because removing a dukedom isn't just symbolic shade. It's a historic statement. It says the crown can distance itself, officially, permanently, from one of its own. It turns a family rift into a national decision. And if that happens, Harry doesn't just lose a title, he loses the last formal thread tying him to the working heart of the monarchy. No more half in, half out. Just out. What makes this saga so explosive is the contrast. The boy who walked behind his mother's coffin, the veteran who served on the front lines, the prince who once felt like the monarchy's bridge to a modern world. Now he's painted by critics as the royal who monetized proximity while criticizing the source. Fair or not, that perception is spreading, and perception is power. Behind palace gates, there are no fiery press conferences, just strategy, timing, optics. The monarchy plays a long game measured in decades, not headlines. And if the decision comes down to preserving the institution over protecting the individual, history suggests the institution wins. Harry, once the monarchy's most relatable face, now stands at the center of its most uncomfortable reckoning. Not a fairy tale, not a simple villain story, a collision between tradition and transparency, duty and independence, blood ties and public accountability. And the question echoing from London to California is no longer will they make up? It's what happens when the crown decides it's done waiting. Because while Harry built a new life an ocean away, the monarchy didn't freeze in time. It recalibrated, quietly, strategically. And now the institution he once called home is deciding exactly how much of him it's willing to keep in the royal frame, and how much it's ready to crop out. At the heart of this tightening storm is one brutal truth: the crown does not like loose ends. For centuries, the monarchy has survived wars, abdications, scandals, and divorces by doing one thing exceptionally well: closing ranks. When a situation threatens the institution's long-term image, personal feelings take a backseat to preservation. And insiders whisper that Harry's situation has officially moved from family problem to institutional liability. That's a devastating shift. Because once you become a liability to the crown, sentiment stops leading the conversation. Strategy does. Behind palace walls, discussions reportedly aren't emotional. They're practical. What does the public think? What sets a dangerous precedent? What protects the future king? The monarchy's survival depends on appearing stable, neutral, and above political or commercial entanglement. Harry's post-royal career, media deals, public commentary, high-profile interviews smash straight into that carefully guarded image. To supporters, he's evolving. To critics inside the system, he's eroding the boundary that keeps monarchy and celebrity culture from becoming the same thing. And that boundary? It's sacred. The tension isn't just about what Harry said, it's about what he represents. A royal who stepped outside the palace and proved the royal story can be told without palace permission. That changes the power dynamic. Suddenly, the monarchy isn't the only narrator of its own myth, and institutions built on symbolism do not take kindly to losing narrative control. So what's the response? Distance, gradual, measured, unmistakable. The removal of styles from official listings, fewer public references, a cooling so severe it feels like a prelude to something final. Not dramatic, not loud, just a slow turning of the page while he's still mid-sentence. And hanging over everything is the possibility of formal action. Stripping a title isn't medieval theatrics, it's a constitutional mechanism. Rare, yes. Explosive, absolutely. But legally possible. And the mere discussion of it sends a signal louder than any press release. No one is bigger than the institution, not even Diana's son. For Harry, this isn't just about losing a word before his name. It's about identity. He was born into a system where titles aren't accessories. They're heritage, legacy, a lifelong role written before you can walk. Losing that isn't like changing careers. It's like watching your birthright dissolve in real time. And the emotional sting? It reportedly cuts deepest when it comes to family. Because beyond Parliament and protocol sits the fracture that started it all, the collapse of trust between brothers. Once the duo who navigated grief, duty, and global attention side by side, they now stand on opposite ends of a philosophical war about what the monarchy should be. One side believes survival depends on discretion and unity. The other believes silence enabled pain, and that truth, however messy, had to come out. Neither sees themselves as the villain. That's what makes it tragic. But monarchy doesn't run on emotional nuance. It runs on optics and continuity. And from that angle, William's path is clear: protect the crown he will one day wear, even if that means formalizing the distance from the brother he once shared everything with. To Harry, it feels personal. To the institution, it's structural. Meanwhile, public patience continues to thin. Many in Britain aren't dissecting family psychology. They're asking a simpler question: can someone reject royal duty while benefiting from royal association? Fair or unfair, that question keeps resurfacing in polls, debates, and political chatter. And in a constitutional monarchy, public sentiment is not background noise. It's pressure. Pressure that Parliament can't ignore. So Harry stands at a crossroads unlike any royal before him. Not exiled, not embraced, suspended in a strange in-between where his past defines him, but his future may be forced to exist without the royal framework that shaped his entire life. And the cruelest twist? Even if titles vanish, the scrutiny won't. He will still be Diana's son, still Charles's boy, still the prince who walked away. Except without the formal role, every move becomes more vulnerable, more open to attack, less shielded by institutional backing. Freedom and exposure arrive as a package deal. For Meghan, for their children, for the life they've built, the stakes are just as high. Because whether the Sussex name remains official or becomes purely historical, their story is forever tied to the crown they left behind. You can step out of the palace, but the palace rarely steps out of you. What happens next depends on decisions made in rooms the public will never see. Legal consultations, political calculations, family conversations heavy with history. The monarchy moves slowly, until suddenly it doesn't. And if the trigger is pulled, it won't be framed as punishment. It will be framed as modernization, streamlining, clarifying roles in a slimmer, more focused royal future. But make no mistake, for Harry, it will feel like a final door closing. The fairy tale didn't just crack, it transformed into a cautionary saga about what happens when tradition and transparency collide at full force. A prince who wanted a different path. A monarchy that believes survival depends on staying the course. And now the world watches, waiting to see which is stronger, a man's reinvention or a 1,000-year-old institution protecting its crown.